Hello, this is Tim at lovechangegrow.com. It is Sunday, October 23rd, 2022. This week's blog post is about autumn or fall, and it's about harvesting the fruit of our labor, making preparations towards winter. Um, this is a bit of a reminder orientation to fall has several wonderful aspects to it. One is, we get to harvest the fruit of our labor. Part of it is, at this point in time, figuring out what is left in the garden, what do I need to do to clean up the garden, what can I salvage from it. Perhaps we have some green tomatoes and we can do fried green tomatoes. Or, for example, this past week I moved my kale and some chard into the greenhouse and to see if I can get it to extend into winter and see how long I can keep my kale going. Let's see. So fall is about what you can salvage. It's also about preparations, putting up tomatoes, canning, drying, making provisions for the fall, and having yourself prepared. It's like the squirrels; they're running around collecting acorns and all kinds of stuff. And so I think I also give a nod to the lowly creatures. And on one hand, there's the class of the lowly creatures, which are the composters that decompose the leftover scraps, the leftover plants in the garden. And they're really important because if we don't have these little beings composting our scraps, we don't have compost, we don't have good soil for the next growing season that comes around in the spring. And then there's the other class of critters, things like rabbits and prairie dogs. I grew up with prairie dogs in the Midwest, and I thought they were kind of cool little creatures. And then later on in college, I saw at a museum sort of a 3D, model version kind of thing of prairie dog towns, and I had no idea. I thought they just lived in a hole, but no, they have an extensive little community underground with, access to water and I guess store food, sleeping quarters, and stuff like that. And I think that's important because fall represents, sharing our harvest, the bounty of our harvest. It's also about celebrating, connecting with friends, and things like that. But these lowly critters also cue us into that for our survival and getting through the winter takes sharing, takes connection and community. And so with some of the larger things in the political, economic sphere of our world are seemingly crazy, but these small creatures remind us that we have a lot of resources in our neighbors. I used to think that the epitome of being was being self-contained, being self-sufficient, taking care of myself. And there is, a number of people think this way, and I certainly thought that way until in my 20s I realized that no, we're interdependent, that we have to share, that we have an exchange within our community, within our environment, our sphere of influence, and nobody can prepare and be completely self-sufficient and self-contained. And the striving to do that is a lot of hard work and very expensive. And realizing that we are interdependent, there's a connection and an exchange that needs to happen with our immediate environment, our community, our neighbors. And that's really important because then we have a diversification of our resources. And by sharing and by interacting and having connections and communicating, we have access to a lot more resources, skills, food, barter, trade, and that kind of stuff is, I think, going to be key in some of the challenges that we seemingly are moving into from the economic, political, social kind of challenges that we have. So I think that's, again, important to be to establish communications, connections with family, friends, neighbors, our community, and in there we'll have a lot of influence, a lot of expanded resources and access. So that's part of, I think, preparations towards winter. The other piece about autumn is, historically, it's Thanksgiving, and I think, Thanksgiving is a ritual, so to speak, in our community or our tribe or family. We get together and share. Thanksgiving dinners are often, at least in my upbringing and experiences, is about everybody brings something. Coordination. Oh, I'll do the sweet potatoes, I'll do the turkey, no, this person's doing the dressing and all that. And so that's also represents sharing in a community, getting together, and celebrating that, being thankful. And so the last half of the blog post is a look forward to the task of winter. I know for myself, once the holidays hit, it's off to the races. And so I wanted just to put a nod to winter as, oh yeah, we have task of winter, and perhaps we're all too busy during the winter for a while anyway. So I just want to give a little reminder, perhaps a little reorientation about winter. I know a lot of people don't like winter. I love winter for two reasons. The superficial one is I live relatively close to a ski hill, and I love going snowboarding. It can't be cold enough and wet enough and snowy enough, because for me, wintertime is in a sense my vacation time. I run up to the hill and go snowboarding for 4 or 5 hours, waste myself, come back home, crash, and I am a happy person. But more significantly, it's the opportunity, it's the time of transcending, transforming, and becoming connected to our deep self, being renewed, figuring out who we are, what's our passion, and what do we want to do about it. So the second half is a nod to that, just to remind us that wintertime is a time that we often don't think about as a part of gardening, but it is an essential part. It's the part where we introspect, go inside, and figure out who we are and what do we want to do, what's our passion. And I know that winter can feel like a long, lonely, isolative slog, and it is, but it's also the opportunity to go inside. And this part is kind of an individual part where we got to just kind of make space, make our cocoon. And the little caterpillar weaves a cocoon, and that's part of the preparation, because this dive into ourselves to find out who we are it can't be done by anybody else. It has to be done by us, and the more prepared, the more oriented we are to that, it's a discovery. It's a part of it is letting go. Part of it is like figuring out what could I have done better, but then moving on and saying, okay, that's lessons learned. So I give some cues about that, some ideas about that, some links to some other blog posts that I've written. So that's the basic piece of this week's post, and I have some ideas of what I'm going to do next week, and I'm working on that. And so thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye.